Today I will present to you John Shinoda Bolen's book, Like a Tree. John Shinoda Bolen is a psychiatrist, a Jungian analyst, and an internationally known author and speaker. She has written more than 13 books, including The Taoist Psychology, Goddesses in Every Woman, Gods in Every Man, Rings of Power, Crossing to Avalon, and Like a Tree, the book that I will present to you today. This is our author, John Shinoda Bolen. So the idea for this book started when the author had a Monterey pine called Pinus radiata in Latin cut down in front of her house. She suddenly understood that there were many differences in the surrounding environment caused by the tree's removal. This led to a series of research which produced this fantastic book where the thematics are connected with mysticism, spirituality, biology, and also the role of women in every country, especially in the developing countries. So trees are arboreal perennials made of columnar body stem with branches growing from it. They have evolved from thin layers of vegetation, a slime that included bacteria, molds, mosses, lichens, algae, etc. that had the possibility to do the photosynthesis. And as you all probably know, the photosynthesis is a chemical and biological process that uses moisture and sunlight to produce carbon, to transform the carbon from the carbon dioxide in the air into sugars and to release oxygen into the air. Plants therefore produce breathable air for the whole atmosphere and for all human beings and all living beings, and produce sugars which feed the planet. Plants have a nutrient transport system consisting of the xylem and the phloem. The xylem runs through the branches and nourishes every leaf, while the phloem is produced and consists of all the photosynthesis products. There are two main categories of trees. One are the angiosperms and one are the gymnosperms. The gymnosperms are conifers originated in poor soil and survive with extremes of weathers. These are, for example, pines, redwoods, junipers, cypress, cedars, etc. The second category are the angiosperms, which differ from conifers in their sexuality because they practice double fertilization. They also have flowers. These are, for example, the baobab, the maple tree, acacia, eucalyptus, olive tree, coffees, and many more. These are the ones that we can usually find more in nature. All trees have a small ecosystem of their own, and if trees are cut down and whole forests are demolished, we therefore also destroy and demolish the small ecosystem that is surrounding the tree. The author says that Mother Earth is a giving tree that has brought forth life of all kinds, including humanity. And Earth became a planet on which life was possible through the activity of trees. Trees provided a breathable air and created the atmosphere. Trees provided foods and sugars. They created soil for vegetation to grow and water fit to drink. And mankind have therefore been using them as an inexhaustible resource, often causing deforestation and nature destruction. The best example, in my opinion, is presented by Easter Island. This is what Easter Island looked millions of years ago. As millions of years ago, most of the Earth's surface was covered with forests. With the advent of mankind, when people settled down in Easter Island, they started cutting down trees. They used the wood for to make their homes and to make boats, and they also started to sell and trade these goods. Nowadays, this is what remains of Easter Island. You probably all know these pictures. It's a totally flat area with sculptures present on them. There are no forests. Nowadays, both tropical rainforests and boreal forests are being destroyed mainly for economic reasons. But not everything is lost. For example, in Japan, people have started to plan reforestations. reforestation, and whole deserted lands have been turned into huge forests. And they're managed so well that their extent is still increasing. This, for example, happened in the small island of Tikopia. What humans really don't understand is that by destroying the environment, they also destroy their own health and destroy themselves. Because if the environment doesn't survive, humankind won't survive either. And there is an urge to reconcile with Mother Earth. There is an urge to ensure ourselves first and then the future generation the possibility to live a normal life in a healthy and preserved environment. For example, this picture shows a woman and represents all mankind that are constantly building new factories and destroying the environment, nature, as it is. There are many organizations that fight to preserve the environment. These are, for example, Greenpeace, that you probably all heard, or the Nature Conservancy Project, and another project is the Chipko movement that fights to preserve forests against deforestation. Deforestation is a thematic that people have been dealing with for many decades. It's a thematic that is really present in books and also in many movies. For example, in the Avatar movie, the film, the science fiction allegory presents the difference between tree people who fight to preserve the environment and nature, and non-tree people represented by capitalists who destroy forests and nature in order to gain wealth. Another topic that is present in the book is spirituality. There is the concept of the world soul, in Latin anima mundi, which is a concept based on a perceived experience of sacred unity. And this energy, this special energy, connects all living things. Plato describes it as diffused throughout nature. He says that there is a special energy in nature that connects all living things. It animates all human bodies and it makes trees sacred. Another theory is proposed by James Lovelock. He proposes the Gaia hypothesis, named after the Greek goddess Gaia, who gave birth to Earth. He says that Earth is made out of all living beings and their environment, and is a superorganism with a self-regulating possibility. So it becomes clear that trees are really somehow sacred. And that's why they have been worshipped for thousands of years, starting from indigenous tribes. They were considered sacred because they provided oxygen, breathable air, food, soil for vegetation to grow, water fit to drink, and medicines, as many plants have also healing powers, like the eucalyptus, or the echinacea, or the ginkgo biloba, and many more. And there had always been this special relationship of giving and receiving between trees and the people and these Asian tribes. Even today, we say that a person who understands and speaks to the plants has a green thumb. But the plants don't respond to those who don't care about them. They respond only to those who fight in order to preserve them. Trees were considered symbols by these ancient tribes. For example, druids, priests, and shamans lived the world of sacred trees, and they presented the connection between this world and the spiritual world. And when they lifted their arms to the sky, the position was that of a tree. What is more, trees are also a symbol for the cycle of death and rebirth in nature, with the shedding of leaves in autumn and the renewal in spring. But trees have also other spiritual symbols. For example, the very famous Christmas tree in Christianity, which is made during the first day of December, and people keep it until the first day of January. Families usually gather around the Christmas tree and feel emotions of love and warmth in the family. In Hinduism, for example, there is the cosmic Aswata tree, connected to nature and to the nature's preservation. In Buddhism, the Bodhis tree is present, under which Siddhartha Gautama, later on called Buddha, found his enlightenment and founded the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Way, which are at the basis of the Buddhism philosophy. The symbol of tree also appears in the Bible, in the Genesis, as the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve were the first men and women who lived in the Garden of Eden, the first men and women created by God. They lived in this beautiful garden with many plants and with different fruits. God let them take whatever fruits they wanted, but from the prohibited fruit, which was the apple. The devil, in the form of the snake, convinced Eve to pick up this prohibited fruit, and they were later on punished by God and sent to earth and punished with suffering. The tree appears also in Greek mythology in the story of Daphne and Apollo. Daphne is a nymph, while Apollo is the god of the sun, and he was in love with Daphne. But she didn't love him, so while escaping from him, she transformed into a laurel. And that's why the laurel is considered a sacred tree for Apollo. People who perceive soulfulness in trees have experiences and beliefs similar to all indigenous tribes. And this happens also today. For example, when you go under a tree and you feel a sense of peace and serenity, you can really hear all the nature's sound, and you feel somehow connected with this energy and with this synergy with the surrounding nature. Siddhartha Gautama Buddha said a very interesting quote that impressed me and made me think. He said that since everything is a reflection of our minds, everything can be changed by our minds. People have always been connected with nature somehow, especially during ancient periods, millions of years ago, especially ancient tribes. But with time going on, we have somehow lost this connection with nature. We have become too concentrated on the material world, on our private life, on our working life, on technology, that we have lost this special energy that had always connected people with trees. If we continue and go on and destroy the environment, we will destroy ourselves. And everything can be solved by ourselves. We are the problem and we are the only solution. If we want to spread awareness, we need to change our minds first, as Siddhartha Gautama, later on called Buddha, says. A very important topic, perhaps the most important one in this book, is connected with women and trees. There is a close similarity between women and trees, as they both live in a complex ecological system, survive under difficult conditions, and do a lot of things simultaneously. So we could really talk about multitasking. In the case of trees provide us breathable air, soil for vegetation to grow, water fit to drink, do the photosynthesis and produce foods and sugars, and at the same time are responsible for the small ecological system surrounding them. Just like trees, women in many parts of the world, especially in developing countries, tend to become endangered. So we could conclude that this is not a good time either to be a woman or a tree. But what people in fact don't understand is that women and trees can be those who could really do something in order to change the environment, to save the environment and save our planet and restore humanity. This is a picture that I think is very funny and ironic and somehow reminds me of my mom. She constantly runs everywhere. She needs to take care of my family, she needs to take care of me, of my sister, of my dad. She prepares the meals, she cleans the house and does other household activities, but at the same time she has her own job and many activities and events to attend, yet she manages to do them all and complete them perfectly. On the other hand, I don't think my father would be able to do all the things my mother does, and this is called multitasking. Multitasking is helped by the number of fibers connecting the left brain to the right brain. And these fibers are required to shift focus, which involves going back and forth from logic to feeling, to being in the moment, and then at the same time being aware of following a schedule. This happens because there are huge differences in the anatomy between a male's brain and a female's brain. A female's brain, for example, contains 11% more neurons than men's brain. A female has a larger center of emotion and memory function, called the hippocampus, which means that she is better at expressing her feelings and better at understanding how other people feel. She has a larger area that weighs option in making decisions, called anterior angulate cortex, and also a bigger area that inhibits aggression called prefrontal cortex. On the other hand, a male's brain is larger in size and contains more gray matter, but I'm sorry dear boys, bigger doesn't always mean smarter. They have less fibers connecting the left to the right brain, which means that they are unable to multitask, and they have more spaces devoted to sex, danger and aggression. And I found a really interesting and truthful picture that explains the difference between the female and the male brain. For example, the female brain has a lobe concentrated on chocolate, another concentrated on bad hair days or on fantasy. She has a lobe concentrated on maternal urges and weddings, a gossip lobe, a shopping lobe, etc. While the male brain is concentrated a lot on sex, it has the beer lobe, the getting lost and not admitting it lobe, movies with explosions and babes, ball sports, TV remote control, as they're very fond of television, job stuff, etc. So there is no discrimination, but women are described as the better gender, or the most, the gender that is able to multitask and do many more activities. Not only are women able to concentrate on their working life and on their private life, but they are also involved in a variety of activities connecting the environment. It's very important what they are doing about climate change, about water scarcity and deforestation. This woman is Idina Yohana. She is Tanzania's first woman village forester. She goes from village to village in Tanzania in order to teach women a lot of subjects connected with the preservation of environment. And this other woman, she is Julia Hill Butterfly. I think she could be considered like a hero. She lived in a town where the government wanted to cut the whole forest down. So she decided to spend a few weeks and she lived on trees. And in this way she refused to come down from the trees unless the government signed the document which prevented the deforestation and the cut down of these trees. They could really be considered as proper role models. Endangered women. So in many parts of the world, as you probably all know, women are routinely beaten, sold into prostitution and raped. They are denied access to medical care, they aren't able to go to school, they are denied political power, and just like trees, they become endangered. And research showed that powerful social and economic changes, as well as the preservation of the environment, is held by women who are supported, educated, and empowered, and live in a safer environment. This picture says that right now 66 million girls dream of going to school. This other picture says that 70% of women experience violence in their lifetime. And this important girl, who you probably recognize, is Malaya Yousafzai. She is a Nobel Prize winner. She says that one child, one teacher, one book and one pen can change the world. And I really think it could be like that. The important thing is that children and girls, especially girls, are given the power to be educated and they are empowered in order to help society and also the environment. The Girl Child Network Worldwide is an organization founded in Africa by Betty McConney, and is an organization that supports young victims of rape and supports them during their lifetime, empowers them and gives them the possibility to be educated. We could then conclude that we lived in a period of crisis where danger and opportunity exist side by side. This situation calls for intelligence, for mysticism, for spirituality, to find ways we connect all together, men and women with no difference, because there is a necessity for qualities that have always been stereotyped as masculine or feminine to be developed in everyone. And all in this way we could really save the planet and perhaps restore our souls. I would like to leave you with a message that the author gives at the end of her book. She says that she ends her novel with a hope for us to become three people, described as an orientation of spirit and of the heart. Her hope is not the certainty that something will turn out well. Her hope is the conviction that something makes sense, no matter how it turns out. I think she's totally right. If we really want to do something in order to change the environment, we should start from ourselves. Change our way of thinking, our beliefs and our opinion. And only this way we will be able to spread awareness and try to convince other people to change their habits, their opinions, their way of acting in order to help humanity and restore our souls. This is the end.